Mhm.
Hey, Abraham, how are you?
Good afternoon, sir.
How are you?
Fine, thank you, sir. Nice to see you here.
Okay, good to see you too. I see you're already recording.
Sir?
I see you're already recording. Eh?
Yes, yes, sir.
So even the preparatory stage, did you record?
Probably we could get some points.
Okay.
Give me permission to record.
Sarah, how are you?
Sarah is muted.
It's fine, it's fine.
She's one like that. All other people, she's not the only one with nine. She's not the only one. Everybody
I don't know.
Imagine. Ina karatu.
All right. Well, I think while we're still waiting, we can just have some brief commercial about some important tools. So I'm going to share some screen now.
Never a master. 48 laws of power.
First time we are making a major inroad, a major breakthrough in the fight against COVID-19. It's a major breakthrough because this will enable the country, Nigeria, and in fact the rest of Africa, rapidly ramp up the amount of the number of tests we carry out in our different countries.
This kit will increase testing capacity using the polymerase chain reaction by 50 times while reducing the cost of testing by 500%. In addition, it is versatile, it is inexpensive, it is non-toxic. And Africa needs this kit, of course, to help flatten the COVID-19 curve. It's a matter of urgency here. We are at this juncture appealing to the African Development Bank to consider the proposal before then, so that Africa will benefit from this kit, especially in the area of mass production of this kit.
have my temperature now.
Right, I think it's better we start now. Okay, we're going to start with the national anthem of Nigeria. Okay, good afternoon all. It's nice to have everyone and our pleasure. This is OFAB Nigeria webinar series in collaboration with FMARD. So I would hand over straight to the moderator for today's event in person of Barrister Richard. Hi, sir. You're not a co-host, so you can spotlight your video, sir.
Hello, everyone. I welcome you to this August epoch-making activity, the National Virtual Conference on Technological Interventions in Mitigating Impacts of COVID-19 on Nigeria's Food Security. My name is Richard Mark Mbaram. I will be your compere for this activity, even though it is a virtual activity, but we expect that we're going to have the best of times interacting and also sharing loads and loads of knowledge. At this point in time, having taken the national anthem, I want to basically welcome all dignitaries and also the participants who have signed up for this activity. For us, it is a time in the annals of Nigeria in which we really, really require that agriculture steps up to the plate and leads the charge economically in basically kickstarting the recovery, you know, of the country's economy after the pandemic that we have experienced. Yes, we're still in the throes of the pandemic without doubt, but we're already planning ahead of it and looking to ensure that we maximize, you know, the opportunities that biotechnology in itself and biotechnology in specific terms can provide us in this effort. So having said that, I want to quickly call on our host for today, Dr. Rose Maxwell Gidado. She is a country coordinator, OFAB Nigeria, to basically give us a background and agenda setting for this event. Permit me to also quickly note that we have in attendance here the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in the person of Alhaji Sabo Nanono. My apologies on his behalf because we're setting up his feed, and but he is certainly going to join us. Thank you very much. Rose, are you set? Hello, Dr. Gidado. Okay. There's something wrong with the connection. Hello?
You're a co-host. You have the right to unmute yourself.
Okay, that's fine. Rose, are you muted?
Okay, I'm trying to spotlight your video now.
Yes, please, the technical team, please help us out.
Yes,
the video is okay, but the audio is not too good.
Yes, I'll rectify that.
Okay, so Abraham and team.
Unmute yourself now.
Okay, I've been unmuted.
Good.
Thank you very much, Richard, for the introduction. I would like to say good afternoon to you all. My DG, CEO NAFDA, Professor Alice Akpa, the DG CEO of National Agri-Seed Council, Dr. Ojo, my brother, and I can see Pankaj. I can see so many people, Professor Philip Dayo, all in the house, Diran Onifade, I think, and all others that I can't see very well. I want to say good afternoon to you all, and I want to welcome. I cannot share my screen. I wanted to share my screen. It's like I can't share my screen. The host has disabled me from sharing my screen. And so I have just quickly to set the tone for this meeting. My own is to give background and then set the tone for the meeting. And of course, is on actualizing the sustainable agricultural ecosystem of our dreams, actualizing it, and agenda setting. And then the background here I have, here is that COVID-19 is one of the world's most significant events that has resulted in huge disruptions of economic activities, leading to a significant decline in the GDP, an unprecedented, sorry, I'm having some distraction here, social disruption and the loss of millions of jobs. According to estimates by the African Development Bank, the cost billion and then 100 billion due to an output decline and a steep fall in commodity prices. disruption in food supply chains, among others. So whether we will be able to recover from a looming food crisis only depends on the kind of approaches that we take. Of course, agriculture contributes 22% to Nigeria's GDP. This number may look small, but smallholder farmers who are responsible for these contributions are at the receiving end. And then the COVID at the receiving end. As a country, it is important we look for ways of addressing these concerns. To place Nigeria ahead of the coronavirus, the government and other concerned stakeholders in the private sectors will need to create synergies in food production and then agriculture. And I'm sure, of course, that is why this meeting has actually been put together to really work out ways, you know, to work in synergy, the government and the private sector all together. So how do we actualize the sustainable agricultural ecosystems of our dream? Of course, what we have to first of all look at what sustainable agriculture is. It's actually farming in sustainable ways, which means that meeting societal needs, you know, food needs and all those things, textile needs, without compromising the ability for current or future generations to meet their needs. It can be based on an understanding of the ecosystem. So what are those agricultural practices of our dream? Of course, they are here. We have planting cover crops, adopting agroforestry practices, reducing or eliminating tillage, you know, applying integrated pest management system, integrating livestock and crops. You know, there's those practices that actually will not compromise, will give us high yields of our crops and what, without compromising the environment, of course, and then the ecosystem, without disturbing the ecosystem. That is good coexistence between human activities and what's there on the environment, managing the whole system and the landscape. So then, but before we achieve these dreams, of course, how do we achieve them? Well, let's first of all look at the challenges that we have at hand presently. We have low productivity, poor seed systems, limited mechanization and so on and so forth, poor fertilizer uptake, and then post-harvest losses, and then degraded soils, limited access to finance by farmers, and then unconducive policies and so on and so forth. Climate change is also here. And you know, when we're talking about climate change, you know, the rising temperature, drought, flood, is either there's too much rain or too little rain. So these are the challenges that we have at hand. So how do we overcome all this so that we can achieve, you know, our own dream? Of course, the appropriate use of technologies, use of appropriate technologies in the practice of agriculture is key, you know, in this. And what are those technologies? Of course, biotechnology is the kingpin out of all those technologies. And so such biotech practice, those modern biotechnology practice, we have hybridization, we have tissue culture, we have genetic modification, we have gene editing combined with mechanization, even combined with the conventional breeding and so on and so forth, digital farming and all those things. They're all put together. Once we practice this, you know, this technology, of course, we can achieve that dream, which we have been yearning for. And so that COVID-19, of course, we can do away with COVID-19. It will not affect us even after the COVID-19. That is the post-COVID hunger that we're actually afraid of, that we might, you know, be victims of that, will not be there again, and all this. So for this workshop, we have set objectives, and the objectives here, of course, this objective will set the agenda for this meeting to highlight the importance of modern technologies in driving the agricultural sector, and then to highlight the role of modern technologies in sustaining agricultural activities, improve yields. Oh, you have yanked me off. Okay, to improve yields and so on and so forth, to educate Nigerians and farmers on state of modern technology adoption in the nation's agricultural sector, to highlight various ways by which commitment to scale up food, security, and so on and so forth, food security at the highest political level for sustainable development can be strengthened to establish and protect the access of farmers to these technologies and then markets across the globe, to explore opportunities that technology can offer to us as a country. And so these are actually the objectives for this meeting. And I believe that with all the team in the house, all the professors, the DG CEOs and all the big, people, eminent, distinguished invited guests, I know that we're going to achieve these objectives at the end of today. So the conclusion, I think the lessons learned in managing the disease, the killer blow to COVID-19 pandemic, has more in scientific research and innovations, including biotechnology, that could deliver a vaccine soon, conclusively challenge the challenges in the food production and distribution during the outbreak of pandemics can also be addressed through the use of modern biotechnology practice and other technologies. So thank you very much. And I wish us very successful deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gidado, for that quick, agenda setting, basically, for us in actualizing the agricultural ecosystem of our dreams. OFAB clearly is doing a lot, and we appreciate you. Very quickly, we will be going on to the opening remarks by Professor Alex Apa, the DG CEO of the National Biotechnology Development Agency, NABDA. I want to also seize this opportunity to inform that the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in the person of Alhaji Sabo Nanono, has just joined us. Honorable Minister, you're welcome, sir. So without much ado, I would quickly hand over to the DG of NABDA, Professor Alex Apa, for your opening remarks. Prof, sir, I yield the floor to you.
Thank you, Richard. The Honorable Minister, Federal Minister of Agri, Alhaji Sabo Nanono, the DG CEO of the State Council, Dr. Olusegun Ojo, all other protocols duly observed. You're all welcome to this special webinar series organized by NABDA and OFAB, Nigeria chapter, in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. I most especially thank the Honorable Minister, Federal Minister of Agri, Alhaji Sabo Nanono, for not only accepting to chair this important meeting, but also allowing us partner with the ministry in this collective fight against post-COVID-19 shortage and hunger. This meeting is to assist us fashion out strategies to enable us use the enormous powers of modern biotechnology to address situations including disease outbreaks, hunger and malnutrition, insect pest infestation, and of course, drought. NABDA as a government agency is mandated to lead the research into and deployment of modern biotechnology in the country, and we have been doing just that. The most recent, Your Excellencies, is the deployment of the RNA Swift extraction kit developed by a Nigerian scientist, Dr. Alison Nwokoji at the University of Sheffield, UK, and validated for use in Nigeria and the rest of Africa by Nigerian scientists in NABDA, in NCDC, and NIMA. The goal of this project is to massively ramp up testing capacity, both in Nigeria and the rest of Africa. The kit, which is cheap, versatile, and safe, will reduce the cost of detection of COVID-19 by over 500%. It is an African-led project named Test Africa, which is supported by the African Development Bank. NABDA is additionally providing the platform for technology transfer, further research, and local manufacture, with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture as a major off-taker of the kits. Using biotechnology, we can massively increase our agricultural production, have better quality produce, and also higher yields, reduce drudgery, and improve resistance to pests and diseases. For instance, we have been able to unfold a program capable of producing about 5 million yam seedlings using the aeroponics technology for farmers across Nigeria in this COVID-19 lockdown era. Last year alone, 1 million yam seedlings were produced, which was distributed to farmers for cultivation. Honorable Minister, sir, my colleagues, executive directors, and eminent scientists here present, I am very glad to inform you that NABDA has bioresource development centers in almost all the states of the Federation. These centers are charged with the responsibilities of harnessing and developing the bioresources of their immediate communities so as to impact on the lives of our people, guaranteeing food security, creating jobs through wealth, and empowering women and youth. NABDA also has 6 centers of excellence located in the premier universities in the 6 geopolitical zones of the country, all charged with separate mandates. In addition, the National Center for Genetic Resources and Biotechnology, NAGRAB, Ibadan in Oyo State, is now part of NABDA. The center regulates the seed, livestock, and fisheries industries through the Varietal Release Committee, as well as conducts research, gathers data, and disseminates technological information on matters of relating to genetic resources conservation, utilization, and biotechnology applications. The National Biotechnology Development Agency, through NAGRAB, has released hundreds of improved varieties of crops, livestock, and fisheries. NAGRAB being the main secretariat of the National Varietal Release Committee. In 2018, NABDA, in partnership with IAR, ABU Zaria, Bayer, and Mako Agricultural Nigeria Limited, concluded the development, commercialization, and deployment of 2 varieties of transgenic hybrid cotton, which are high yielding and tolerant to bollworm complex. These 2 new varieties of BT cotton are expected to meet the challenges of our raw material supply in the textile industry. Today, we have set the stage for self-sufficiency in the production of cotton as an industrial raw material, with the subsequent transformation of the textile industry in the country. Our confidence is that the private sector, including seed companies, textile industries, and ginneries, will complement our commitments by taking up the challenge of full-scale commercial deployment. Finally, NABDA also designed and constructed a level 2 containment facility in collaboration with AATF, the African Agricultural Technology Foundation in Kenya, at the Institute of Agric Research, IAR ABU Zaria, which is being used for containment studies of genetically modified crops, example, BT cowpea and African biofortified sorghum. Permit me to say here that Professor Mohamed Ishaku, the Executive Director of IAR, who is the PI of the BT cowpea project, will talk elaborately on this project. Once more, Honorable Minister, my dear colleagues, eminent scientists, distinguished guests, members of the press here present, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to have you all with us today. Together, we can make Nigeria's economy a knowledge-driven economy. Wishing us successful deliberations. Thank you all for coming, and God bless Nigeria. God bless Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DG Nabda, for that quick, pointed, and very instructive intervention. We are grateful, sir. Very quickly, I want to recognize the presence of Dr. Yemi Akimbamijo, the Executive Director for the Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa. Dr. Akimbamijo, you're welcome, sir. And very quickly, I would also want to yield the platform to you for your quick remarks, sir.
So thank you for joining us. Yeah. Thank you.
Great to have you, sir.
Yeah, it's really very nice. Yeah.
Oops. Okay. Can the technical team unmute Dr. Akimbamijo, please?
Please unmute him. Please unmute him.
Very quickly, please.
Please unmute all the speakers from
and
now.
You would want to, yes, you want to pay attention to the program and unmute the speakers as they come up. All right, sir. I think you have the floor now.
You have been unmuted. No. Abraham, it's not gone through.
I'll say it's okay. It's okay.
All right.
It's been done. It's been done. Okay.
Yeah.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, MC. Honorable Minister, it is indeed a great pleasure to be able to be with you this afternoon. Alhaji Sabo Nanono. Allow me please to stand on the existing protocol as laid by the DG that spoke before me. And I want to first of all also say a big thank you for giving FARA, the Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa, the opportunity to be able to contribute to this very, very important webinar. Well, let me say this, the whole subject of mitigating the COVID is upon all of us, and it's a responsibility that we all share. And we are particularly very excited, especially because I'm Nigerian, and my fellow colleague who is also a panelist, to be able to contribute to the great work that OFAB and the ministry is doing to keep Nigeria food secure in the face of this very, very challenging pandemic. Well, it's always been said that it is important to avert the crisis within the crisis. And what that means is that we have this pandemic on our hands, but this is something that has also now, on top of the challenge of climate, on top of the challenge of the food insecurity, and all of these together means that we are having to confront a most challenging scenario wherein we have to deploy everything within the system to keep our nation in the leadership position that it is in terms of keeping the country food secure. Now, in the committee of the frameworks that have been endorsed by the policymakers, Nigeria as a country is a significant element in the SDGs, in the Agenda 2063, in the STISA, the Science, Technology and Innovation Strategy for Africa, in the Malabo Declaration. All of these are significant to Nigeria. And Nigeria's response is also extremely important because about a quarter of the continent lives in Nigeria. And as such, I was speaking a short while ago in another webinar, and I made bold to say that Nigeria will actually be the litmus test of the successes or failures of these policies. Nigeria as a country has the wherewithal and all it takes for the country to maintain a leadership role when it comes to the deployment of technology and all that it takes, all that it will take for Nigeria to be able to confront the situation of COVID-19 without allowing Nigerians to go to bed hungry. What will it take us? And I'm very particularly happy when I listened to Professor the DG Alex Akwa a short while ago, detailing available technologies, detailing the specific interventions that has happened in the country. And I think that his message is getting one thing clear across to us. And that message is that we need to strengthen technical capacity, biotechnological capacity at that. We cannot afford to have a weak NABDA, a weak OFAB, a weak institutions that underpins the capacity and the propensity of Nigeria to deploy agro-biotechnologies. Now, these are the daily routines of countries that have breached the food crisis, even in the face of COVID-19. So I believe very strongly that Nigeria is emerging, is an emerging leader in biotechnology, and FARA will be able, we will offer every support that we can at the continental level, at the regional level, to be able to ensure that we have a strong NABDA, a strong OFAB, a strong biotechnology deployment agency in the Nigerian context. We will have to strengthen our capacity to deploy science in Nigeria, because in the context that I just painted earlier on, we will not do too well if we still continue to plant grains instead of seeds. We will not do well if our yield gap continues to broaden by the day. We will not do well. We will only strengthen the Malthusian theory that we're going to have a disaster if our population is growing in a geometric sense and our food production is growing in an arithmetic sense. But we do have today what Malthus did not have. We have the benefit of technology. We have the benefit of agricultural biotechnology. I was very glad to hear that seed yams, over 1 million seed yams, are now being produced. That is the way to go. Tissue culture is the way to go. Hydroponics is the way to go, to be able to bridge the gaps that we have. And I see the current, and I will close with this. I have heard that COVID has led to job losses. That sounds like a disaster. But I can tell you in the Nigerian context that if a job is lost, the probability that you will find that job back in agriculture is more than 70%. That means if somebody loses a job as a teacher in a private school, let's say private school closes, that teacher, the chance that he will find himself, his livelihood back in agriculture is about 70%. So what I'm going to leave behind with the Honorable Minister, with all due respect, with Professor Akwa and all the eminent people that are charged with the responsibility of keeping Nigeria food secure, is that when this challenge of COVID is creating job losses, there is an opportunity. Jobs will be found in agriculture. Now, when these jobs are found in agriculture, we need to empower them technologically in a way that, and in that sense, 1 + 1 must not be 2. If 1 + 1 is 2, that's not empowerment. We need 1 + 1 must be greater than or equal to 3. And you can only do that when you have biotechnology behind you. And I'm sure that with all the goodwill that is demonstrated by the presence of our dear Honorable Minister and all the key people that are speaking here today, we are on the right way, and it shall be, on the end of the day, we'll have a reason to celebrate a great nation. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akin Bafnicho. That was an exciting intervention. Dr. Akin Bafnicho clearly stated that 1 + 1 should not be 2. You know, we've got to work to ensure that it's 3, maybe 4, 5, or 6. You know, thank you very much, sir. Something to note also is that we need to be careful not to have a crisis within a crisis. You know, and that point is well noted. I want to, at this juncture, very quickly, you know, introduce our keynote speaker. He is my boss, Alhaji Sabo Nanono, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's going to be speaking to us on a keynote address titled COVID-19, Securing Nigeria's Food Systems Through Technology. Honorable Minister, sir, I yield the floor to you. Can you please unmute the Honorable Minister?
Distinguished Chairman, distinguished scientists, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me pleasure to address this August gathering today. As we embark on assessment of the challenges confronting our nation's quest for self-sufficiency in food production, the critical role that technology plays in helping the agricultural sector respond to this existential threat posed by COVID-19 pandemic comes to the fore. The pandemic has ravaged the entire world in a manner not seen in recent history, and the concomitant implication on humanity's socio-economic existence remain profound. Accordingly, this event will deem technological intervention in mitigating impacts of COVID-19 could not have come at a better time. Permit me to state that it's now a well-known fact that the federal government of Nigeria places high priority on agriculture. Indeed, the determination of President Muhammadu Buhari to diversify the economy through agriculture is stronger than ever. This is visible from the concrete steps taken to expand agricultural productivity and diversification across the country. Today, farmers are being prioritized in the receipt of interest-free loan under the Agricultural Food and Jobs Program. This administration is making available farm inputs in the form of improved seeds, agrochemicals, and fertilizers to our smallholder farmers across the country. Equally, we are providing rural infrastructure like roads, mini dams, farms, tank storage facilities for our rural dwellers. Technology is critical in today's world, and its relevance in agriculture is almost crucial in preventing farmers' crop losses, diseases, enhancing market access, and the achievement of appropriate pricing for farm inputs and services and produce. This is particularly important for smallholder farmers at this time, as the vagaries brought on by unavoidable movement restrictions imposed by government at the onset of the pandemic have served to disrupt agricultural supply chains across the world. However, biotechnology in particular looks set to play an even more intense role in food security situation in Nigeria. It is important to state as a preliminary point that for thousands of years, farmers have been using breeding techniques to modify the genetic state of crops and animals in order to improve quality and yield. Modern biotechnology is therefore a crucial tool in the drive to produce plants and animals that possess traits capable of enhancing human capacity to secure food system. Similarly, with the aid of biotechnology, we can extend the shelf life of agricultural produce. Indeed, without the galvanizing power of biotechnology, processing and value addition, which are critical for agro-industrialization, would be retarded. With COVID-19 pandemic, however, biotechnology has proven to be an integral part of the medical response. You may recall that only recently I joined my colleague, the Minister of Science and Technology, in the public announcement of Nigeria COVID extraction kit, the RNS Swift. Now, thanks to the work of Nigerian bioengineers, the technology for administering the COVID-19 test is now available locally. I am happy to announce that plans are in place to test 5 million Nigerian farmers as part of Mr. President's mandate for feminine inhibition for food production. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, under my leadership, will continue to support and endanger investment in science and technology. It is in this regard that I have directed the commencement of a comprehensive appraisal of Nigerian industrial research system with a view to identifying ways of enhancing the performance of our research institution. The management and the staff of this institution are hereby requested to join hands with government in seeking technology-based solutions to existing problems such as low yield, pest and insect infestation, as well as post-harvest losses. Emphasis should also be placed on demand-driven beneficial technology. Finally, it is my privilege to declare this meeting open, and I am assured that the robust engagement that we'll have today will enable the Nigerian agricultural sector to respond to threats posed by COVID-19 endemic to food security. I therefore look forward to receiving a copy of the resolution reached at this meeting, as this is sure to enrich our decision-making process. I would also like to add that the pandemic, the COVID-19, may probably open a good opportunity for our country to look inwards and to depend on what we produce and what we eat. This country has enormous potential in the agricultural sector, and we have no excuse, as far as the agricultural sector is concerned, to be hungry. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for your attention, and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, my boss. I thank you very, very much, sir. This was an excellently delivered intervention, and the touch points are very clear. Nigeria is in a position now to resolve or address her problems domestically. We're not afraid of taking on, challenges now in the agricultural ecosystem by force of the enhanced position of biotechnology and its deployment in our favor. Honorable Minister, sir, thank you very much for that intervention. At this juncture, I want to just stress that, or indicate rather, that we are open to questions. If you have them, please just file them up, send them to our team through your messaging process. I want to also indicate that the Honorable Minister will be leaving us soon. I really had to urge and plead, to have him join us this afternoon, and we're very, very grateful. But then, sir, as you go, we can assure you that all the deliberations as you requested will be made will be put together, and also the consensus reached at this event will be made available to you, sir. Thank you very much for your time, Honorable Minister. Very quickly, we're going to move to the next item on our program, which is the intervention of the Africa Development Bank. We have scheduled to speak Dr. Martin Fregene, the Director, Agriculture and Agro-Industry of the Africa Development Bank, and his intervention will be on technologies for Africa agricultural transformation in the post-COVID-19 era. That will happen after a short to pay tribute to our sponsors and some of those who have made this event possible. Abraham, you and your team can take the floor now. I yield to you for a very short break.
Okay, please, before that, Richard. Hi, Richard.
Yes, please. Yes, I can hear you.
Professor Ishaku, Mohammed Ishaku, the Executive Director of IR, I think just logged in. So it's
that's beautiful.
His presence, yeah.
Yeah, most certainly. Prof, good afternoon, sir. Prof, I can eat beans now, you know, thanks to you and your team.
Okay, you are all welcome. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you, Prof.
So we can just take a quick commercial break, and we will be back in no time to continue from where we stopped. Thank you very much, everyone. Abraham, over to you and your team.
to revamping our industries, contribute to food security.
All right, we're back from the commercial break. Thank you, Professor Richard, for that great coordination. I don't know if Prof. Dr. Martin Fregene is on. Sir, can you give a quick signal if you're on with us?
Yeah, he's not up yet. He's having a few issues connecting. So we'll give him like 2 minutes.
All right, sir. So in any case, can we take another commercial or we'll go to the next speaker?
No, we could take the next speaker.
Okay, all right, sir. So I think the next speaker is Professor Dio Philip. Dr. Olusegun Ojo is on now. Can you acknowledge him?
Yes, definitely. Edie, you're welcome, sir. Dr. Ojo, I recognize your Yes, I recognize your connection, sir. Thank you so much for gracing this event with your presence. Can the crew unmute Dr. Joe, please?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Joe,
I committed him.
Thanks for joining us. Sorry, I didn't see you. I would have acknowledged you since you know. Just like we need now. My attention was just drawn that you're here. And thanks for coming.
That is our executive director for the National Seed Council.
Yeah.
Working doubly hard to ensure that farmers
would you like to do
have.
your presentation now, or you want to wait till the...
Yeah. I think we can have the next presentation, Abraham, so that we can save time.
Okay, so Prof.
Once Dr. Segene is up, I'll let you know.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. So we would have Prof. Dio, Philip. Prof, you have the floor now. Over to you.
Okay. Are you seeing my share screen?
Yes, we can, but can you project in PowerPoint view so as to make it more bolder?
Okay.
Hold on. Martin, forget me. I sent it to you.
It's PowerPoint now.
Yes, good, sir. Thank you.
All right.
This is fine, Prof. Doc.
Okay. Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, DG NABDA, DG National Seed Council, all other protocols duly observed. Good afternoon, everybody. We are contributing a topic that you can see, crop innovations contribution to COVID-19 food security and nutrition challenges. The case of pod-borer resistant cowpea. We are an economic team, and we've shown interest from the beginning on the potential economic benefit that the country might derive from the recently released transgenic BT cowpea. The technical details, in fact, every details will be obtained through the presentation of Professor Ishaku. He's very much aware that we'll be showing interest in the potential economic benefit, and that is what we are going to focus on today. Now, we want to divide the potential benefit into two. We will start with the potential contribution of cowpea to Nigeria's critical food need and nutrition. At the household level, if through the BT cowpea, Nigeria is able to gravitate towards the desired cowpea supply that the nation needs, we have listed there 3 potential areas it can intervene, especially at the household level. The first being, as a source of food, it provides food in addition to being a cheap source of protein supply. The second point raised there is that it gives a combined benefit of cash, animal feed, and soil fertility, where these 3 are at the rural household level, and if the farmers are happy, eventually the country will be happy. And in the areas of the country where cowpea can be sustainably grown, we know from data that 2 out of 3 households are engaged in cowpea production. So even though they operate at the level of small holding, we know that it is very, very popular among the smallholders. Now we go briefly to some of the constraints that have bedeviled cowpea production to date. Depending on the source you consult, depending on the literature you consult, we know that between 55 to 100% of yield can be lost to the pod borer, which is the subject of interest of our paper. And as we learned from Professor Shaku, the pod borer that is of interest to us is Maruca vitrata, which is the one targeted by the recently released transgenic BT cowpea. Now, the second point to note is that if you even leave that level, we know that historically, cowpea has yielded very low in this country. Most literature will tell you, most statistics will tell you that the average farm yield, farmers level yield is less than 0.5 metric tons per hectare. And that is the aspect it is hoped that the recently released BT cowpea will address because of the yield protection against Maruca vitrata. Arising from these two observations, it might interest our audience that Nigeria paradoxically is the largest producer of cowpea in the world. I say paradoxically because we also import cowpea. We also import cowpea. It is a kind of paradox because the largest producer should not be importing. In fact, with the figure we have there, close to 500 metric tons of cowpea are imported to be able to meet our domestic demand. So we are hoping that as we gravitate in the direction of yield enhancing varieties, this problem can be solved gradually. At this point, we want to acknowledge to our joy the emergence of the transgenic cowpea, which the critical stakeholders have called SAMPI 20T. We'll be hearing more of this from Professor Ishaku. It is not the business of economists. We are just mentioning that here. And of course, the key target attribute is that it is able to protect itself against pot borer. And Professor Akinbamjo mentioned something about our population in the context of the Malthusian theory. And we want to acknowledge here that take the entire national economy together, agriculture employs 37% of the labor force. Some people might be wondering why 37. This is looking at the entire economy. If you are looking at the rural sector, it employs 60 to 70. But if you take all the services, the mining sector, everything together, agriculture employs just 37%. And what we are saying is that if adoption of PBR is embraced, then potentially, because it is supposed to be yield enhancing, there will be increase in national production of cowpea. And when there is increase in national production of cowpea, the entire value chain activities are enhanced, and that can increase potentially the issue of employment. So we are hoping everything we have done hopes for embracement and good adoption of this variety. When we have that, then there will be reduced import dependency for cowpea, and generally import, we are talking of general reduction in the national import bill. And of course, if there is increased production, then since we are saying that cowpea is a cheap source of protein, then more access to that will be enhanced. Now, we have looked at the domestic or household level benefits. Let us begin now to go in the direction of national benefits. And the first point to note is that the value, we are going to give our benefits in terms of dollar because we know there are international audience listening to this program. For them to be able to relate to our figures, we are giving our figures in dollars. Our audience that are interested in the Naira, please just visit the CBN website and pick the dollar Naira value there. But for the sake of our listening international audience, we are denominating in dollar. So even at the current low level production, even at the current smallholder production, we have estimated that the annual cowpea production is valued at about 1.6 billion Naira. You can imagine what will happen if there is improved yield, adoption of yield enhancing BT cowpea. So we are very hopeful that if that can happen, we can move rapidly higher than this level to the benefit of the national economy. One other thing that we did was we projected over several years what the nation can net gain from the adoption of the BT cowpea, and we found that cumulatively for the next 6 years, Nigeria stands to gain about 638 million US dollars to be injected to the national economy. You have a caveat that if released in 2019, And we are very glad to note that this variety was actually approved by the approving of sector of the economy, the committee. It was actually approved on December 12th. So that caveat of if released in 2019 is no longer relevant. We just wanted to show that. And we are very glad that Nigeria met with this timeline. So the commodity has been released. We are waiting for successful commercialization. And what will gladden the audience from the national perspective is that we found that if you put all the investments together and you put the benefits together, we noted that for every dollar invested in PBR cowpea, including research and everything, Nigeria stands to gain about $71. I think this is very good. And I kind of comically add that if it is this promising, then aspects of agri end up on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. We are hoping for that. Okay, now the next slide has to do with disaggregation of the gain agroecologically. We estimated that on an annual basis, the net benefit from PBR cowpea is about $50 million, and we have disaggregated these based on our agroecologists combined. For the forest and derived savanna, about 5 million of these will go annually to the zone. For the Guinea savanna, about $11 million will go to the zone. For the Sudan and Sahel, about $34 million will go to the zone. If you combine them together, they tally with the 50 million. So from this, and I think it agrees with science, the potential for cowpea production has been upheld and the benefit increases as you approach the Sahel. So the policy takeoff from here is that we hope that the country will take up, initiate the policies that will enable us to realize all this. These are projections based on the agronomist data, based on other scientific data, based on secondary data, and we are hoping that these will be potentially realized if necessary policies are put in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dio Phillips, for that very illuminating presentation. There's money to be made in this. At least I heard the dollars, resonating. We are very much conscious of our time, and so I can see that a lot of questions have come in already. But I can also I've noticed that Dr. Martins Fregene, the director. Hello. Okay, I can see that Dr. Martins Fregene has joined us, and we can very quickly go to his presentation. Has it been uploaded? Has his presentation been uploaded, please? Abraham, can you confirm that Dr. Fregene's presentation has been uploaded?
Yes, and thank you very much, Richard, and thank you very much, colleagues. It's a pleasure to join you here today on this very important discussion about technologies to mitigate the impact of COVID-19. And can the person managing my slides please put it on slide
yeah, PowerPoint slide mode, please.
Yeah, okay.
Abraham,
there you go. Yeah. The African Development Bank also has been working very hard on ensuring that African member countries are able to manage the impact of COVID-19. The introductory slide here, I'm sure doesn't really need a lot of introduction because many of us already know the impact of COVID-19 on the public health, on food, on economic activities, and exposing, populations that are already vulnerable to even more vulnerability. It's estimated that at least 30% of African populations actually are food insecure. Next slide. Can I have the next slide? Next slide, please. Okay. The African Development Bank, immediately COVID-19 happened, what we did was we contacted all 54 member countries and we asked them to give us a status of food supply, a status of input supply, a status of also malnutrition, and a status of disruptions to the agricultural sector. And we got this, which we now summarized, yeah. And we found that on the demand side, there is a very strong shift in purchasing modalities. You know, people now tend to purchase food at store. Things like vegetables are avoided, even though they're the more nutritional food items, while things like grains, you know, and things that are stored easily, gari, are kind of emphasized. On the supply side, we've seen a significant reduction in food production, and we've seen a significant difficulty in accessing labor for farming. We've also seen significant difficulties of farmers to access inputs. And of course, we have seen increased food losses and wastages due to lack of transportation. Next slide. So our survey of the actual food situation on the continent actually is supposed to guide our response to COVID-19. The bank already has its Feed Africa strategy, and that strategy is supposed to actually guide the bank's investment. So what I'm describing here will be a Feed Africa response to COVID-19. But it's not the first challenge we are facing, see on the continent. This is the first challenge that the bank has been involved in. We've had the Ebola crisis, we've had the MERS and the SARS. We've also had the 2008 major increase in food prices and also difficulty in access to food. So we've had some lessons previously. Next slide. For example, the World 2008 global food crisis, what we did was we actually came up with a strategy to reduce vulnerability of the poor and to support broad-based growth while strengthening capacity of governments to create an enabling environment. Next slide. So here just a sample of what we did back then. One thing we did was, we tried to build, demand by helping our RMCs, to create, food reserves and also to create, support to farmers. While the governments were purchasing, large numbers of food, and also while governments also were releasing stored food from their reserves, it helped to reduce the very strong demand for food, and that also helped to manage the price situation. But also we also provided some policy interventions. We helped countries to set up policies that actually create more resilience. For example, one very good example of that was providing farmers access to inputs and also providing farmers access to finance. Another thing that the bank did back then was also to support countries to actually create national food reserves. Next slide. Immediately COVID-19 happened, the bank immediately moved into action and actually dedicated a $10 billion facility to help countries combat COVID-19. This facility was mostly to help with health interventions, provide supplies of medical supplies, both protective and personal equipment, and also access to testing kits and access to all what is required by the medical sector to combat. But in addition, we also provided what we call policy-based operations or budget support for our member countries so that they can, many countries saw huge reductions in the exports just because global supply chains have been disrupted. We saw a huge fall in demand, for what they produce. And so we provided budget support to many of these countries. Next slide. Well, we also had the Feed Africa team at the bank. That's the Agriculture and Agro-Industry Department and the Agricultural Financing Department quickly come up with what we call the Africa Food Crisis Response efforts as part of the CRF. And what we did was we had three different interventions, the intermediates, the short term, and the medium term. And it was all guided by the bank's Feed Africa strategy. It was supposed to ensure that whatever we did was aligned to the original strategy, which actually emphasizes increased productivity, emphasizes value addition, emphasizes improved rural infrastructure, also emphasizes increased financing to the sector. Next slide. So here is more or less a summary of our immediate interventions. The first was to actually work with our regional member countries to create a green channel to remove any impediments or restrictions on distribution of food and inputs. Next one was actually to create self-storage so that we'll be able to store very effectively whatever food and there is, and also to be able to help farmers create demand by government buying back and storing. Another immediate response was emergency food relief. We actually supported through PBOs, our budget support interventions, supported many countries to actually buy food and give to the most vulnerable populations, that's the very poor, the women and children. And also, we also supported countries to monitor existing food reserves and make sure that there was enough for everybody. Next slide. Yeah. The short term was more of providing inputs to farmers. We restructured existing projects and diverted that money to providing support to farmers by subsidies on seeds and fertilizers to farmers to help them. We actually have a total portfolio of $4.5 billion in the Feed Africa portfolio on the continent. We were able to divert about 10% of that to support. In some other countries, we're still working on it, but in many countries, about 23 countries, we already have this in a high gear. We also supported, governments to provide, what we call high nutrition foods, like processed foods, like soybean mixed with maize and mixed with other nutrients for children and women. So there was an emphasis on supporting SMEs to provide this food, and the government was able to buy and give to families that were at risk. Next slide. On the medium term, we just realized that the SMEs are the value chain actors, the most important value chain actors in many African countries. They provide 60% of all the food we eat on the continent. So we took a second look at the SMEs, how to provide them financing through risk sharing and also trade guarantees or first loss mechanisms. And we are now working very hard to ensure that all these SMEs, also providing them some infrastructure like wholesale markets, and then also helping them to be able to overcome some of the challenges. Next slide. So, like I said before, I've already gone through all these food distribution, stabilization of food prices, through release of food, inputs, our flagship farm inputs, growth enhancement and resilience support programs. Next slide. And then also policy support, free flow of things. This is just a summary of what I've been talking about. Next slide, yeah. So this just shows more or less, our operations and the ones which have been rescheduled. Yeah, next slide. Next slide, please. So again, targeting the most vulnerable groups, women and children, rural populations, small farmers and cooperatives. Next slide. So our targets, we have very clear targets, in children, women, and then farmers, and the number of food provided equipments, and these targets actually guide all we are doing and also help to support our monitoring and evaluation efforts. Next slide. We work very closely with the African Union. The African Union and the FAO have a major food intervention program, and also have a task force that we and along with the World Bank are members of. We've also worked very closely with COMESA, worked with other key regional bodies like CEDAW, and also that's for ECOWAS, and IMAO and IGAD in the Horn of Africa. Next slide. Well, at the country level, like I said earlier, our contacts have the Ministry of Agriculture, our entry point is the Ministry of Agriculture. We also work with other partners, particularly the SMEs, and also particularly the groups of the private sectors. Yeah, next slide. We have continued to collect data at the country level on the labor situations, strategic food reserves, domestic consumption, agro inputs, so as to be able to probably guide our interventions. Also, we have also looked at official trade and cross-border trade especially, and also looked at our ongoing projects to make sure that they are aligned to responding to the impacts of COVID-19 on food supply. Next slide. Partnership has been very key for us. We've worked closely with AGRA, also worked with the Islamic Development Bank, with the World Bank. We've also worked very closely with Badia and other development, multilateral development banks to ensure that we can create synergies, that the whole is more than the sum of the individual parts. Also worked with the Rockefeller Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the like. Yeah. Next slide. There are just some processes, that the bank actually uses to make sure that fiduciary principles and financial management are obeyed. But I won't talk about it now. Next slide. Yeah. Like I said, M&E is very important. So we have very clear KPIs, and then we work with the governments to make sure that we monitor what is being done to ensure that we actually hit those KPIs. And then we also track it through the bank's normal monitoring mechanisms. Yeah, next slide. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, the African Feed, the Feed Africa COVID response is the bank's framework for food security amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. It has used budget support, it has used restructuring to ensure that we're able to get the bank to support RMCs at this difficult period. Also, we have also used restructuring to help resilience. People say never let a crisis go to waste. So we have been working very closely with our RMCs to make sure that this crisis does not go to waste. Yeah, next slide. Thank you very much. And here's a contact of the staff to my department, in case you like more information. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be being with you. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Fregene. I need to underscore that Dr. Fregene himself is a proficient bioengineer who has worked, across Africa and indeed the world. Yes, so over a space of I think 30, closing on to 30 years or more. Dr. Pagana, we thank you very much for that presentation. The African Development Bank clearly is doing a lot, and we here in the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in Nigeria look forward to more robust, partnership with the AFDB as it relates to science and technology deployment in the agricultural ecosystem, particularly the technologies for Africa agricultural transformation. Once again, thank you, Dr. Pagana. So we will move very quickly now. Abraham, is there any intervention that, are there some questions that we could just quickly take note of at this point in time? Abraham.
In the chat box, sir, there are some questions that can be attended to. Let me unmute my madam so that she could coordinate that part. Probably we just
Your madam being Dr. Rose Gidado?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's fine. All right. So let's have Dr. Gidado.
Okay, I'm going
Hello,
to.
Rose.
No, please, Richard, because we don't have time. Can we continue? Yes. Because I'm going through the questions and I'm answering. Okay. Yeah, they're not very serious questions. I think.
Okay, that's fine. No, they're serious, but it's just that you can answer them on the at the background, and if there are any major ones, we can ask.
Yeah, at the end we can give everyone opportunity at the end of.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so the next presentation is actually that of Dr. Abdul Razak Ibrahim. Technological intervention to mitigating impacts of COVID-19. Dr. Abdul Razak Ibrahim, please.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, then.
Can you hear me?
You have the floor. I yield to you.
All right, thank you very much. Let me try to share my screen from this end so that perhaps it will be easier to handle the presentation.
That's fine. We can see it.
Thank you.
Abraham, please, can you put it on? Can you take it to PowerPoint mode?
PowerPoint view. I think
and
bring it on the full screen, please.
Okay, sir.
Yes. Is it okay now?
Yeah, this is fine. But Abraham, I think you can do better. Can you move it to full screen?
Okay, I will need to share your screen from here, sir. Can I do that now?
Okay, fine. So let me stop sharing mine.
All right.
Yeah, I think.
So I'm sharing Doctor's screen from here.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't know. I think it's faster when he shared it.
It's true. It's true. I think it's just.
Okay, doctor, you can share from your end.
Let me share from my end here.
All right.
So Abraham, you can stop sharing.
Okay, I've stopped already, sir.
If you run it yourself, I think it's
Okay, I think there's a way to. Someone says it takes the whole village to start sharing.
Yes, yeah.
It takes a whole village to unmute.
Okay, so I think this is fine.
Are you looking at the normal view, or you're also seeing my slides?
No, the slides.
Okay, here I'm grateful to Dr. Rose, who humbly requests to stand on all existing protocol. I am Abdul Ibrahim. I'm a Nigerian here working with the Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa. I am from Kano. Kano is one of the agricultural bases of Nigeria, where you produce a lot of cowpea and so on. So this is a very special topic for me. And also as an agricultural biotechnologist myself, with experience from the bench to the field, policy, engagement, communication, all around agricultural biotechnology. I feel very excited and honored to have the opportunity to speak here. So let me start this presentation by borrowing a slide that my executive director once presented in one of the forum, biotechnology. The point is that for the 800 million people that are going to bed tonight hungry, for them, food is medicine. So those people, whether they have COVID, whether they're exposed to COVID or not, they are also hungry, and for them, having food on the table is medicine. That's just food for thought. Again, let me quote Dr. Yemia Kimbanjo once again.
Yeah, he's here.
That we need more science in politics and less politics in science. What this means is that more and more scientists need to be engaged. Countries and policymakers and people in key positions need to mainstream science in the way that we do things. And because science is evidence-based, it should not be the politics. Rather, it should guide politics. This picture is one of in one of our science matches that we had. That's my little daughter there in front. So you can see I'm a proud father. Again, let me quote our dear former president, Excellency Olusegun Obasanjo, who said that without science, agriculture will just be like a car without engine. There is no country that has broken the food security barrier. There is no country that has attained high level of human development index without paying serious attention to its agriculture using science. I think it was the former Prime Minister of India that said, everything can wait except agriculture. So now to the topic of discussion, which is about looking at the technologies that can be deployed to mitigate the consequences of COVID-19 within the context of food and nutrition security. Now, the implication of COVID-19 on food and nutrition security, agriculture in Nigeria, is that the interaction between human, agriculture, and wildlife, which created the ecosystemic imbalance that led to the breakout of the pandemic, has created a health crisis. And this health crisis has led to measures being taken to contain the virus. The most significant measure, perhaps, is the lockdown situation, where almost all countries are imposing it. So this has created serious impact, serious shocks, disruptions within the food system in terms of supply, in terms of demand. And I do recall the presentation by my elder brother, Dr. Martin Fegeni, eloquently captured those, the impacts on the part of supply and on the part of demand. So there's on the supply, disruption in food distribution, disruption in production, people cannot go to farm. Those that were in the middle of production would have to contend with losses as a result of post-harvest losses. Researches that are currently ongoing in the field and in the lab have been disrupted. On demand side, people engage in a lot of panic buying, so this created imbalance in prices. It has been projected that up to between 37 to 79 billion US in terms of losses will be recorded in Africa. And agricultural production has been projected to contract by 2.67%. Now, this is a very serious situation, and parts of the innovations employed to contain the crisis is there's a lot of online market spaces now. As we are doing now, for example, we're engaging online. But to use technology, you need to to plan to use it. So let me just quickly move to the next slide. Again, yes, so COVID will be around for a long time. This means we have to create measures, we have to create ways to be able to work with COVID pandemic as the new normal. Now, the picture in Nigeria, currently, this is the most recent figure in terms of cases, in terms of tests carried out, but within the context of food security, what is known is that in the most vulnerable region, that's northeastern Nigeria, currently 2.9 million people are food insecure. And this is a 72% increase from October to December of last year. And this has been in a way exacerbated by the outbreak of COVID. And the people most affected are the vulnerable people, some of whom are currently in internally displaced camps with weak immune system. So the consequence can really be devastating. Part of the interventions in terms of technology will be to apply technologies that will ensure that safety nets that are inclusive of nutrition. You can see again, in many parts of Nigeria, particularly in northeastern Nigeria, if you look at the different phases of food insecurity, there's a high number of vulnerable people across the region. Again, in a projection on the global status of nutrition, you see Nigeria, excuse me, yeah. So you see that part shows Nigeria. If you consider different phases, you can see that we are not in a very good situation. So clearly something has to be done. So FARA, since the beginning of the pandemic, FARA hosted an e-forum, an e-discussion, where we proposed 3 key areas of intervention in terms of response to COVID in the context of food and nutrition security. And these areas are technologies to fast track the mitigation of food shortages and extend storability, strengthening food supply systems, trade and labor markets, and finally, foresighting vulnerabilities within the food system itself. Now, the topic for focus in this presentation is the first intervention area, that is technologies for fast tracking mitigation of the food shortages and extended storability. But there's a lack of capacity in general Africa. Although Nigeria is emerging to become a leader, particularly in the areas of biotechnology, where you can see on the global median level, we're still lagging behind in terms of adopting technology. This is this figure shows how technology in terms of internet is being adopted across the world, and you can see that Africa is still lagging behind in many ways, although Nigeria is leading. Here again, just to show the trend in terms of low technology adoption, and if technologies are not adopted in time, the tendency is that people get excluded, especially those that may eventually benefit from those technologies. Now, they're here just to say that countries that have invested in technologies are the ones that have the highest human development index. If you look at this graph, South Korea is at the top there, United States, United Kingdom, Nigeria is down there. And this graph shows the human index, the historical index of human development over several years. And the reason boils down to simple investment in research and development. This second figure shows the bigger the goal, the higher the number of amount of money invested in research and development. So you can see countries that are really big, that invest big, they tend to have higher human development index. And this is the evidence. If you plot the map of Africa, of the world, in terms of scientific outputs, Africa is almost invisible. So, and if you take a capacity audit of the number of scientists per million people across different regions, Nigeria is only 38. So in every 1 million people, there are only 38 scientists, as against 1,714 in East Asia, for example, or 4,500 in the US. And because of this, the number of global patents that emerge from Africa is low. The global scientific contribution also is low because the investment in science and technology and research particularly is low. So to come back to our topic of discussion, which is about using biotechnology to address COVID pandemic in the context of food and nutrition security. I submit that the breakout of infectious diseases like the pandemic that we are witnessing currently is a response in biological systems that has created changes leading to what now people are beginning to call eco-anxieties. So I ask you, do you think that agriculture itself is natural? Now, the reason why I need to pose this question is because part of the reason some of the arguments put forward in many cases against the use of biotechnologies is to say that no, let's go natural, let's do the natural agriculture. But in actual fact, agriculture itself is not natural. The reason why we cultivate, the reason why we do not, we're able to cultivate plants, we're able to grow them, is because we interfere in their natural biological system. If we do not interfere, then they are natural. So if you're looking for natural agriculture, it's there in the wild. Any crop that has been domesticated is no longer natural. I just thought I should put this out. And the single most important event in human history has been the invention of agriculture, right from the times of Mesopotamia to the time in ancient Egypt, when our ancestors domesticated, invented and refined agriculture to a point where we no longer, in many cases, we no longer need to use hoes in some places, we use machines. These days, people use drones in agricultural production. So the thrust of my presentation is to build a case to show that we need to leverage on an ongoing biological revolution to address the threat of food and nutrition security posed by COVID. So to do that, let me just state that in human history, there has been at least 3 biological revolutions that we know of. The first biological revolution has been domestication. You can see on the left-hand side, what you're seeing are different centers of domestication of different crops. That revolution is what led to the invention of agriculture. It is what led to changes in our metabolism. It is what led to changes in physiology and anatomy of modern Homo sapiens. On the right-hand side, you see similar domestication process, the trajectory of domestication process in the animal kingdom, from horses to cows to ducks. All of them have undergone various stages of domestication, and that revolution completely changed the world. The second revolution I would like to highlight is the globalization of different continents to connect together for people, which are also biological systems, to cross and migrate from region to region. And as they traveled and they crossed from region to region, they also took with them plant and animal genetic resources. And this is what gave out the different forms of varieties that we have today. And finally, we had the third biological revolution, which was the discovery of fossil fuel. With the fossil fuel, we were able to invent and reinvent agriculture to a level where we traveled to the moon, to a level where we now have machines that sequence DNA and tell us the exact genetic code of every single organism as long as we're able to isolate its DNA. So these three revolutions are converging to create a new demand on agriculture and food systems, including Nigeria, because of the pressure on climate, because of changes, imbalances in the ecosystem. You now have new varieties, you have new diseases coming up, and you have to therefore invent and innovate to find the best way to sustain life on Earth. So the challenges are to produce significantly more food, even on less land, with less water, in a condition that is quite unpredictable, including the one we are currently facing, which is a breakout of pandemic. We need to reduce the amount of waste and losses. The nutrients, the changes, there's change in dietary habits. So people are beginning to choose. You need to biofortify crops so that you're not only able to address the challenge of hunger, but you address the challenge of hidden hunger. You need to move up the value chain so that scientists that traditionally do the traditional method of research in a linear manner, they now need to engage the farmer, by the farmer. It needs to be articulated from the farm to the table. And so, which technologies? And when we look around, the most obvious technologies are the biotechnologies. And this slide shows some of the numbers, not so recent. This is a 2016 update, but you can see that the biotech soybean, for example, reached about 50% of the global biotech crop area in 2016. There are several other biotech crops, sugar beet, papaya, eggplant, and these have created a lot of, excuse me, moderator, can you see, I'm seeing some marks on the slides. Is this showing there on your side?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know what is happening.
Yes, the technical crew, please help us out.
Sorry?
I think it's from your side, Doctor.
Yes, I think it's from your PowerPoint.
But yes, but I think we can. I think we can carry on.
Okay. Okay. So here on the left hand side, on the right hand side, you see the numbers in maize, in cotton, in potato, and I'm really happy and proud to say that Nigeria is taking its rightful leadership position in terms of biotechnology. Like Dr. Yemi mentioned, if you want to test, if you want any development goal to be achieved, if you want to achieve the sustainable development goal, the Agenda 2063, the STISA, the Africa we want, the Feed Africa, all of those targets, they have to work in Nigeria for them to work in Africa and therefore the world. Because if you address any problem, agriculture, health, security, in Nigeria, what you're doing in essence, you're addressing that problem in 1/5 or 1/4 of the population of the continent. So just to say that it's really heartwarming to see that a number of events have been approved. The cowpea, BT cowpea, the water resistant, the climate smart crops, including, I think it's soja, corn. So now let me move to the next slide. Let me say that there is another.
Doctor, just to note that time is not your friend anymore.
Okay, I'm really sorry. I think this slide is messed up. Oh, so sorry. Let me try to put it. Okay, so here, just to say that technologies, they wait for no one. You really need to plan and implement and adopt and scale technologies. And I would like to say that one of the things we have been battling with in the context of GM crops, for example, has been the debate as whether they're good or bad, whether we need to take them on board or not. Now we have reached a stage where there are a new set of technologies emerging, some of them not necessarily subjected to the biotech, to the scrutiny, to the biosafety scrutiny that GM crops are subjected to. And I'm sorry to say that if we do not really address the deficit in capacity, if we do not respond in a holistic manner to adopt these technologies, we may be sitting, debating against GM crops, while in the next day you go to ShopRite, then you buy CRISPR-Cas lettuce imported from South Africa or from China. So that's what I mean by technology waits for no one. So the ongoing biological revolution is the synthetic biology, which combines the power of computing to design and model and characterize new forms of products that can be used to address food and nutrition security. And so we are in the era of bioeconomy, where a creative disruption, in which a trajectory, we were before now, we were talking about breeding. We were talking about hybrids. Then the GM crops came. And now we are talking about new crops will emerge, new technologies will emerge. So if you do not employ the foresight and strengthen your capacity to adopt them, you may be missing in the disruption. So, and one of those disruptions is the bioeconomy era that we're in, where from the natural economy, we have now reached a stage where you look at the entire aspects of the biosphere to generate products that you address food and nutrition security. And to manage a crisis like the pandemic that we are currently undergoing, perhaps one framework we can adopt is the One Health framework, which brings together the environment, the people, the diseases, the microorganisms, the bacteria, to address food and nutrition security problems. So here I highlight 3 key intervention areas that we can key in. The use of tools for horizon scanning. So for example, in FARA, we have been advancing the foresight technique in this manner, strengthening capacity. There's a lot of deficit in terms of capacity, and harnessing high throughput technologies like the CRISPR-Cas technology. Glad to see that CRISPR has now been mainstreamed into the National Biosafety Framework. So to come back to those responses proposed by FARA, 3 of them, and focusing on the first one, which is about technology, there is need to increase application of science and technology, and the key entry point is biotechnology. And you have to do that looking at the whole value system, value chain approach, where you don't just focus on generating the technology, but you adopt it, you refine it, you commercialize it. You need to do more science with this commercial sense in mind, because the adoption of technology has to be done, in a holistic manner. You can do biotechnology. If you do not have energy, it won't work. If you have just the energy without the biotechnology, you cannot address the problem. So you need a holistic approach in addressing it. And I would like to say that a technology is only as good as the enabling environment for its adoption. So this is why you need this holistic approach that brings together all the various stakeholders. NABDA, the TAD, African Development Bank, OFAB, the universities, the National Agricultural Research and Innovation System. You also need the legal framework here, just to give an example of the Brazilian biosafety framework, which before it was created, no technology was generated, but the moment it was created, an enabling environment was created for the number of innovations to emerge. And I'm glad to say that, for example, from 2015 to the present day, I think Nigeria has been on the path to adopting this model. So we are adopting these technologies to change food markets and improve livelihoods. We don't want to see people in the left-hand side, in condition on the left-hand side. We want to be able to use technology to organize the market so that more people have more livelihood, more people have safer and more nutritious food to eat. And in the context of a holistic approach to adopting biotechnology, one recommendation we can make is the adoption and mainstreaming science in the way that we implement our national agricultural research programs. So the science agenda for agriculture in Africa, which is championed by FARA, it's actually a technical framework for implementing the CADP. It advocates for mainstreaming technologies, including biotechnologies, to raise the Human Development Index. So here, I think I'll just skip this. In terms of next steps, I will say that moving forward, this should be more about stakeholder engagement and strengthening action plan. We need to develop, create an action plan in terms of biotechnology being mainstreamed into an already existing national agriculture and investment plans with COVID interventions in mind. So prioritizing the technologies based on country capacity, based on countries' ability, based on resources on the ground. Then more and more capacity building, more and more knowledge sharing, and so on, so that together we can not just defeat COVID, but also plan for the next possible pandemic, which may happen. I'd like to stop here. Unfortunately, I had a disaster with this slide, but I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doctor. I think the slides are actually legible, even though we had some marks on them. This was a very, very enlightening presentation. We thank you very much, Doc. We will move very, very quickly, and I need time. So our speakers will please find a way of performing the miracle, of conveying your points in a manner that is also conscious and expeditious, as regards our timing. So having said that, the next presentation will be, we're supposed to have a break, but from all indications, we really don't have the time. So Professor Mohamed Ishaku, the Executive Director, Institute of Agricultural Research, IAR, will be presenting Lab to Field, BT cowpea experience. Prof, I yield the floor to you, sir.
Yeah, Richard, 1 minute. Let me recognize the president of NACOTAN, Mr. Anibe Achimugu. He has been here, I think, all the while, and okay. I'm just knowing about it. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. So, Prof, you have the floor.
So Professor Ishaku, over to you. Do you have a presentation?
Yes, can you see my slides?
Yes, Dr.
Yes, the slides are
Yeah.
visible from where I am.
Okay, good afternoon, and I would like to thank the organizers of this conference. As earlier introduced, I'm going to talk on the road to the development of transgenic pod-boring insect-resistant cowpea variety called SAMP20. I'm going to share our experience, and this is a collective effort between myself and other members of the team. I'm going to talk about some of the brief historical background and how we arrived at the release of the variety. We all know the importance of cowpea. Dio Philip has given the economic importance of cowpea and what it can do. Dio Philip, also Professor Dio Philip has also alluded to where Nigeria is placed in terms of cowpea production. And the topic of our talk goes back to a meeting in very early 2001, when cowpea scientists all over the globe met in Senegal, Dakar, Senegal, and recognized Maruca as one of the #1 threat to cowpea production in the world. And gave a commitment that they got a commitment that Maruca should be tackled as a threat to cowpea production. Maruca actually is a pod-boring insect that feeds on the reproductive parts of cowpea. It feeds on the flower bud, the leaves, the flowers, and then it boils in a pod that escapes from the damage. So you can see the pictures that shows wide range of destruction. Eventually, even when grains are escaped from this damage, the quality of the grain is highly compromised. In the field, it can cause up to 90% yield reduction, and it can induce poor quality of the grain, and therefore reducing yield for farmers and also reduce their income. So how can we prevent this? The only possible ways are the application of chemicals, which we all know are usually very toxic to the environment. They are also expensive. They deplete our foreign reserve because most of them are manufactured and synthesized abroad. And for that reason, plant breeders attempted to find a natural source of resistance for the purpose of crop improvement. And up to 15,000 different accessions were screened for resistance, and none of them was resistant. Other approaches were also used, like wide crossing, but they So what is left is now the advent of modern genetic engineering tool, where a gene from a saprophytic bacteria was found to be very useful in granting resistance to cowpea. So this is a process of genetic modification where a Cry1AB gene, which is effective against the Lepidopteran insect Maruca, was tested, and then the gene was used to transform cowpea from the grain, and then embryos were immersed in the gene solution, and then into tissue culture process to develop a callus and also a mass of tissues, and then seedlings. The seedlings are now conditioned. They are conditioned to behave like they are as if they are in the field, and eventually seeds were produced from these plantlets, and the seeds were used for the field screening. All these processes had took place. The transformation took place in the laboratory and then also in the containment facility. It is now left to prove to the concept that this material, this newly developed material, can be effective in controlling Maruca in the field. So starting 2009, we initiated a confined field trial in Zaria, confined in the sense that no other insects will enter and interfere with what we are looking for. So this has enabled us to identify among the transformed material, which of them is the most suitable for further development. Here are our colleagues under the confinement taking the necessary data. And a number of events or accessions that were transformed were evaluated. And the one that stood out to be very promising is an entry called 709A. And to test the efficacy again, some more entries were included, and each of the plants was infested with up to 40 larvae of Maruca to ensure that if we see production, resistance is not as a result of escape. So after concluding and selecting the entry 709A, then there is the need to grow this and then release it at a variety. But unfortunately, the entry 709A is smooth seeded, and almost all Nigerian cowpea consumers prefer those cowpea varieties that are rough seeded. And again, the leaves are also not the type that farmers would like. To that end, we had to initiate a breeding process to introgress these transgene from 709A to a farmer preferred variety. So we used, I need to say that this 709A, in terms of its production, in the midst of high level of infestation with Maruca, it was about twofold, at least 100% higher yielding in the preliminary. So in the introgression, 709 was selected, and then crosses were made between our commercial variety, SMP10. SMP10 is a striga-resistant material released by our institute, and then it was used in the back crossing program. So at every stage of back crossing, we had to track the gene, whether or not the gene is contained in our cross hybridization program. And a very simple dipstick is used, where presence of the gene leads to the formation of double band on the strip, whereas absence of the gene produce a single band. So that means those plants that carry the gene and those that are not carrying the gene can easily be separated during our back crossing program. So we came up with 10 different high promising, early enough progenies, which are at the 5th back cross level, and they were put into preliminary performance. And based on that, we sought for approval from, let me stress here that the National Biosafety Management Agency at that time, it is simply called the Biosafety Unit of the Federal Ministry of Environment, had to give us an approval to go into this research, right from the establishment of the confined field trial, and then an additional permission was sought to expand the evaluation to at least 3 more representative areas, that is Bakura in Zamfara State, Minjibir in Kano, including that of Samar. So replicated trials were conducted, and on that basis, we selected one of the families and call it 97 KT. Based on the performance in terms of yield and also resistance, and damage to Maruka. We also conducted food and proximate composition analysis to find out whether or not, as a result of the genetic transformation, whether some critical values and quality traits of this new variety is less than that of our commercial varieties. And you can see the value is within the range of our control varieties, SMP10, in terms of crude protein, as well as crude fat and ash content, carbohydrate content, as well as the calories that is expected from it. So in all ramifications, as far as the value in terms of biochemical composition is concerned, this new variety is as good as our conventionally bred commercial varieties released. Having showed all these potential performance, not only in terms of the resistance, but also the biochemical composition equivalence, the Nigerian Biosafety Management Agency issued a certificate of permit for us to release this variety for farmers to multiply. That made us now to fulfill the requirement for a variety release. So this variety, together with some checks, were evaluated in different places, up to 11 places. And the results were presented to the National Variety Release Committee. You can see that this new variety, compared to its formerly released counterpart, overall has more than 200 kilograms. I mean, it has more than 20% yield advantage. Additionally, it was also grown on farmers' field. This is a stability analysis of its performance across different locations. So for us to be able to face the Variety Release Committee, we have to show them evidence that farmers are not only satisfied in the production, but also the quality. So 4 entries, including the IT97 KT, the pod borer resistant, and then SMP10, a commercial varieties, SMP16, and farmers varieties were planted in different places by farmers. The plot size was 10 rows by 10 meters. And we carefully requested that farmers can only spray only twice, including all our tests, including the ones I previously alluded to, all single 2 sprays. And the 2 sprays are targeted such that they will target other insects, not Maruka. Now, the summary of the result shows that the farmers' performance of IT97 KT is higher than the SMP10 in almost all the places that we evaluated. For example, you can see that SMP10 is only 500, SMP10 had 589 kilograms per hectare, while SMP10 had only 285 kilograms per hectare of grain. The same thing in Minjibir, the difference is around 300 kilograms per hectare, and which means that the difference between them together, if you go to Bagadawa, in Samaru, and all other locations, most of the other locations, you see that 90% out of 100 that IT97 KT, which is resistant to Maruka, it has yield superiority over others. On the basis of this, farmers, both men and women, were asked to rate this rank the variety in terms of their perception. And in terms of grain yield, pod load, early maturity, maruca resistance, insecticide, demand for insecticides, and so on and so forth. Overall, IT97 KT PBR came down to had a score of 1. These are representative pictures of farmers and their field. And the second advantage PBR cowpea has is that it is also doubly resistant to striga. These are the descriptors which we submitted to the variety release committee. It's a typical vegetative stage of the new variety. Here it is also in our research field. And this is one of the farmers' field that the variety release committee members went and saw for themselves the potential performance of this new variety. And this is a typical damage that maruca can cause if the pods escape maruca damage and then they produce it. The new variety, which is released, also has the same potential. On the left-hand side, you have akara that is made from PBR cowpea as well as San P10, the conventional variety. Then on the right, on my right-hand side, is a moi moi, which is made from both varieties. You can't see any significant difference between the two. And then here a palatability test of some volunteer people who came and tested it. Now, on the basis of earliness, relatively high yield, which is between 2.5 tons to 2.9 tons per hectare of potential yield, even under intense maruca infestations with only 2 sprays of insecticide, the variety SAMP20 was found to be worthy of registration and released to Nigerian farmers on the 12th of December 2019. Here, the case is such that we can't run away from the use of technology, as the Honorable Minister of Agriculture has alluded to in the beginning. I have said in the beginning that up to 15,000 different accessions of cowpeas were screened, and there is no source of resistance. And for many other traits in which resistance sources do not occur naturally, or it is not possible to succeed in making hybridization, conventional breeding will have to be augmented by leveraging on the opportunity given to us in genetic engineering, just as we did in the development of maruca-resistant SAMP20 variety. I would like to say thank you to all our partners who joined hand with us and made this very long trip.
Thank you very much, Bob. Really educating, presentation. And for me, someone like me who loves beans, I'm particularly very grateful to you and your team on the painstaking work you are doing. Very quickly, we would want to move on to the next slated intervention. And I want to please reiterate the fact that time is not our friend. In the person, CEO of the National Agricultural Seed Council is up next. Repositioning the Nigerian seed system for food security. COVID-19, repositioning the Nigerian seed systems for food security. Dr. Joe, please you have the floor, sir. I yield to you.
Please, sir, can you enable your video? We're not seeing you here.
You want to see me? Okay, that's fine. I am visible now, I hope. It's yes, it's my signal from here. So I'm just trying to ensure that at least you can hear me even if you can't see me. It's a bit treacherous. My signal is a bit treacherous from here. Okay, Doctor, I can see your slides. The tech,
thank you.
Tech team, please move it to the full screen so that we can better appreciate the presentation. Dr. Joseph, we can see your slides. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. I hope you can see the presentation. Actually, I titled this paper, Technological Interventions Mitigating the Impact of COVID-19 on the Seed Sector.
That's quite
go to the next slide. If you see what there, since you can hear me, I said at the moment, we are facing great uncertainty in the world. In fact, COVID-19 pandemic came as a surprise, even to the most prepared economies of the world. Seeds being the starting point of any agricultural production, and seed and input deliveries among the essential services must continue to operate to achieve food security. Therefore, farmers must have access to improved quality seeds, as seeds are the most single important component for food security. Next slide, please.
Next slide.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, what are the economic realities? Please, next slide. What are the economic realities on COVID-19 on seed security and food security? And there is no doubt that seed security and food security will be greatly impacted by the COVID-19, and the signs are actually very clear. The World Bank projected a decline of economic growth in sub-Saharan Africa from 2.4% in 2019 to minus 5.1% in 2020. And we know agricultural SMBC to be impacted negatively, resulting in many of the countries in the region facing severe food security crisis. Can we go to the next slide, please? Also, according to the study conducted by the National Bureau for Statistics on the impact of COVID-19 in Nigeria, 25% of agricultural-based industries and farmers stopped working as a result of the impact of COVID-19 on agriculture. And the council, recognizing the facts, this fact is actually working assiduously to ensure farmers and stakeholders are provided with the best technology available. We know that the seed sector is actually the pivot upon which food security, work creation, and farm profitability is seen. And the success recorded so far in Nigeria is actually as a result of the steady growth experienced by the seed sector and the increased access to seed since the coming on board of the NASC. Then we in the Seed Council have actually introduced some seed sector specific interventions to cope with the pandemic. The first of these is what we call the Seed Alert Nigeria, which is a collaborative effort coordinated by NASC that brings together experts from Wageningen Center for Development Innovation, Sahel Consulting Limited, and other stakeholders from research, from the academia, from extension, and farmers groups and seed companies. This exercise actually started in April 2020, and we term it rapid assessment of the seed sector. And it initiated to identify red alert areas and propose coping strategies that are capable of mitigating the impact of COVID-19 challenges, and in order to keep the industry afloat.
Some of the coping strategies include movement permits that we obtained from the Police Inspector General for movement of seeds and ancillary services. Also, sea palliatives provision by particularly the Honorable Minister of Agriculture. And we also wrote to all the state governors to ensure that seeds are used as palliative, particularly for farmers. To date, we have 2 editions of the Seed Act. The May edition revealed mobility restrictions that hampered access to market by farmers, seed companies, and agro dealers, increased prices, and reduced affordability of farmers. Then it hampers seed quality assurance services and production and supply of early generation seeds. Also, if you look at the slide, you will see the June version, which revealed that lockdown disrupts processes involved in evaluation and release of new varieties. Timely production of early generation seeds. These publications are actually available in our website. Okay, well, like what we are actually dealing with today are technological interventions and innovations capable of mitigating the impact of COVID-19. I want to say that a number of cutting-edge technologies have been developed and have been deployed by the NASC to processes and services of NASC and the state industry in general. We all know that agricultural technologies, especially digital agricultural solutions, offer a range of important opportunities to address the impact of COVID-19 on agricultural activities. The NASC, as the agency of government responsible for implementation of the seed sector policies, have adopted a number of technologies in the seed system. The main purpose of the deployment of the cutting-edge technology into the processes and services in the NASC is to ensure that our clients are able to access our services at the comfort of their homes anywhere they are. And this will ensure that movement restrictions and social distancing measures do not excessively impact on the services of the seed industry and that of the NASC. One of the technologies which we have introduced won a Google Award in 2017, and it's called the National Seed Tracker. The National Seed Tracker is an innovative application and first of its kind in Africa, and it has been introduced to seed certification for real-time tracking of seed production, seed trade, seed quality management, and this certification. It's actually a platform for linking all stakeholders along the seed value chain. Some of the key features of the National Seed Tracker includes easy seed producer and company registration, also seed field registration, then also seed traceability and organized seed information. This we actually introduce so as to ensure that farmers and seed producers do not have to come to the Seed Council for them to access all these facilities. Another of these technologies is what we call the Seed Codex, which is a smart variant of our certification tags. The Seed Codex actually enables farmers and other seed users to verify the authenticity and genuineness of every seed container before use, simply by scratching the silver panel and texting the hidden numbers 21397, and farmers will be able to actually identify and ensure that what they are using is actually genuine seeds. This technology is being developed, is being deployed and operationalized for all classes of seed today in Nigeria. The seed codex is actually to give every part of the new seeds a unique identity, such that seeds that didn't pass through the NASC seed quality assurance and certification procedures will be easy to identify and eliminate. I also want to mention that the Seed Act number 21 of 2019 gave us room to outsource certification to the third parties. This is also in consonance with global best practices and the genuine resources of government. So these are some of the innovations that we have introduced into the seed sector. Another novel adjustment to the use of technologies in this era is the opportunity to meet stakeholders online via visual meeting. These technologies have been deployed, particularly to ensure that our services are issue-free and accessible without having to resort to traveling long distances with minimal physical contact. We want to be sure that we are in tune with the procedures of NCDC. In the production aspect, the development of high-ratio propagation technology like the SAH and aerophonic have been introduced, particularly in conjunction with IITA, and it's been popularized for fast propagation of all the vegetatively propagated crops. We're actually looking ahead. We are trying to create, and we are creating avenues for collaboration, exchanges, and partnership through visual engagements where possible. We are the NAS, we have ensured that all our meetings, both expanded meetings of our management, are actually held online. Also, we've been able to have meetings with seed companies, and it has been very, very marvelous. One other very important thing that I want us to know is that we in the council have started to decentralize our operations from the headquarters to our regional offices and state offices to ensure that our services are moved closer to our clients and the capacity of our staff are being strengthened. We are also advocating more investment in climate smart technologies because there's no better time to introduce those cost-saving technologies than now, because as we all know, most of our farmers' cash flow has been depleted by the COVID-19 pandemic. I want to actually conclude by assuring all of us that the Council is ready to work hard to reverse the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the seed sector operators and farmers in order to boost their response and resilience to the pandemic through the use of various innovations. I want to thank you for listening. Sorry, we have some challenges with sharing some of the PowerPoints, but I hope we are cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ojo. That's really was very compact, smart, and to the point. We were undoubtedly conscious of the fact that seeds are the most important component of agricultural inputs and indeed underpin the productivity process. Without seeds, nothing can be sown in the first place, let alone you talking about harvesting. So thank you, sir, for that intervention. We will, at this point, having spent this length of time, be calling on Ms. Alhaji Sharif. Is Alhaji Sharif here now? The Vice President of the Federation of Agricultural Commodities Association of Nigeria, Alhaji Sharif Balogun. If he is here, he has the floor. I will yield to him. In his absence, we will basically move on. But is Alhaji Sheriff here, please? Alhaji Balogun, I yield the floor. It would appear that he is not here. So we can basically move to the next item. It's been a very, very interesting, you know.
Okay, hello, Richard, please, the Nakotan president. The Nakotan president has been around since. Please.
Just a minute. Okay, so that's fine. Yes, that is Mr. Anibe Achimogo.
Okay, yes, please.
National President Nakotan. Mr. President, I apologize profusely for having missed out on your position on the program. But please, I want to crave your indulgence that I do not have too much time to spare. And so I am conferring on you the responsibility to please perform magic and be wrapped up in about 3 to 5 minutes. Thank you very much. I yield the floor to you.
It looks like I can't locate Anibe again. Is he there? I saw him. He's off. He even sent a message. So in the absence of nobody now, we can give room for questions.
Okay, that's fine.
The outcome, what will be the outcome of this meeting? Like a communique or what or whatever?
No, basically, this has been a very, very intense engagement field meeting, and we're already pressed for time, bro. So we have to be very, will I say, innovative in handling it. So I think that the Secretariat has been doing a lot of work. We will be in a position to engage back end and send to all our participants, you know, the report of the proceedings for them to make inputs, and then it can be adopted, you know, subsequently. If that aligns with popular opinion, I suggest that is the way to go, so that but then again, we can take questions, critical ones.
Yes, yes, and they that did not see their presentations. If we can have their presentations,
we have presentations back end already filed with us. If we don't have anyone that is missing, we'll request from the presenter.
All right, I think I recorded. I think that's fine.
All right, so, then I would want to take. I've seen a few of the questions, and Angel Adelaja Kuye is a senior special advisor to the Ogun State Governor on agriculture and agribusiness. She has asked a few questions. If we have Angel here, she could just ask one of those questions directly, so that we get to take it up. Our presenters can take it up where necessary. Angel, tech team, please unmute Mrs. Angel Adelaja Kuye. Thank you.
I can't find her.
We can't find her on the list. It's possible she has dropped out. We don't know how we can reach across to her.
We saw her earlier.
Yeah, we saw her earlier, but she's not here. So Richard, maybe you can take the next question.
Yes. Okay. So if you have a question, you could just indicate by a raise of your hand, or indication is there. I think there's a means for indicating that you have a question. Just a raise of your hand or an indication of your hand. A high five. Yes, I see Azubike Nwokoye. Azubike, please proceed. Tech team, on mute Azubike, please.
Okay, yeah, I've been unmuted.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Permit me to stand on the existing protocol and Thanks for organizing this insightful meeting. Thanks for organizing this insightful meeting, and thanks to all the presenters. I had actually sent my question, and my question is this. What is the role of agroecology within biotechnology? Having in mind that we need to grow food sustainably, even in the face of climate change and the current pandemic. So what role is agroecology playing within this? Thank you.
Okay, so who will be taking that question now? I can just ask.
Okay.
The candidate. Okay, Rose, go ahead.
Well, let me just do my own bit. I think agroecology is all about sustainability. Yeah, it's about sustainability in agriculture, doing it the right way without any compromise, getting yield, getting good, making good farm management practice and all those things. Good interaction anyway between human beings and the farm, the trees, the crops, the waters, and the animals and all. And I think biotechnology plays a very important role in that, because biotechnology too is all about sustainability, using technology, of course, in this one, while agroecology is just the conventional way of doing it. But with biotechnology, you are using scientific tools, and at the same time, you are not also compromising, all this, the environment, the safety of the environment. You're doing it, you want to achieve yields and all those other things, insect protection and what. And then like this example of copy, using the BT copy as an example. If you listen to Professor Ishaku's presentation, of course, I mean, they did all those environmental assessment and what, to be sure that that insect, the copy, was developed to resist. That spray, the 2 number of sprays that is being done, only, pardon? Okay, it's only the insects within the Maruca family that are being affected, within the Lepidopteran family, but other insects are not really affected by that gene that has been incorporated into the beans. Other insects can destroy the beans and what, but it's only the Maruca, the insects within the Maruca. So that's to tell you, how biotechnology, modern biotechnology tool is. Yeah, it's only the target insects that are affected and what. Other things within the environment, the grasses, the wall, the other, where your own beans, the Maruca resistant beans is planted, other weeds around it are not really in any way affected by the incorporation of that Maruca resistant gene into the cowpea. So that is to tell you the kind of role biotechnology plays when it comes to sustainability. I think maybe Abdrazak, maybe other people can add to that.
Okay. So because of our time, I think Dr. Gidado, that should basically be sufficient. Who else has indication? I don't questions. All right. So maybe we just take from the one more from